Welcome to Without a Doubt, the podcast where we explore the transformative journey of breaking cycles and embracing our truest self. I'm Mad, a cycle breaker, freelancer, and a sprinkle of reality. Each week, we dive into conversations that challenge conventional thinking and inspire personal growth. Here, you'll find practical tips to help you navigate your own path towards authenticity. Whether you're looking to overcome limiting beliefs, create meaningful change in your own life, or simply live more authentically, you're in the right place. So get ready to break the cycles that are holding you back and start living a life that is truly reflecting who you are meant to be. When was the last time you didn't start something because you didn't know how? Or the last time you wondered something but did nothing to figure it out? The cool thing about 2024 is the ability to Google, find a YouTube video, or learn about anything basically on the internet. There's endless resources and tools we can find or use in order to actually achieve all the things that we want. However, so many of us actually never start. Why are we all struggling to get started? Is it the figuring it out part? My friend's dad always says, a job begun is a job half done. I do think this is so true. When I was a fitness coach, I used to say the hardest part of working out is actually getting to the gym, and that is also true. For most, the act of starting something seems near impossible. But you may be more like me and think, well, I'm sure I could figure that out. More or less since I was a young little human, I always looked at projects and thought, oh, I could do that. And yes, I have attempted to do those said things time and time, and I have failed at projects, but I have also succeeded at a ton more because I do have the mindset of being that figure it out kind of person. But I'm also the person who says, let's go, let's try it, why not? Versus not starting something because of a lot of the reasons, more so on failure or things like that. I mentioned earlier, it's super cool that we have tools and resources like YouTube and Google that we can learn to get ideas under our belt and actually gain knowledge. But we have to start. And we have to be the ones to figure it out. We have to get on that train. The phrase, everything is figure-outable, was actually popularized by Marie Forleo. She's a American entrepreneur, freelancer who actually has a book on this shit, and it emphasizes a mindset of resilience and problem solving. It suggests that no matter how complex a challenge seems, with enough curiosity, creativity, effort, solutions can be found. This perspective encourages a proactive approach to difficulties, fostering a belief that obstacles can be overcome and that learning and growth can come from tackling challenges head on. This actually promotes optimism and resourcefulness, reminding us that many of our problems have solutions and they're just waiting to be discovered. Many people struggle with figuring things out for several reasons. First of all, I think fear of failure is the number one thing. Worrying about making mistakes is going to prevent us from even starting to tackle whatever problem we're having. The biggest one, in my opinion, is this, like fear of failure. Why is failure such a hard thing to deal with? And why are we so mean to people who do fail? My thought is if you're trying and you fail, at least you tried. You did more than most people because most people will never even take the first step. That is always going to be the freaking hardest part because our fear of failure will undoubtedly hold us back. I want to talk about 10 people who were successful humans that failed before they succeeded. First of all, let's talk about the greatest basketball player of all time, Michael Jordan. He was actually cut from his high school basketball team. Walt Disney was actually fired from his job at the newspaper early on in his career because they said he lacked imagination. Steven Spielberg was rejected from film school 3 separate times. John Grisham's first book, A Time to Kill, was rejected 28 times. Albert Einstein had the label mentally slow on his school record. Henry Ford, his first 2 automobile companies actually failed. Oprah Winfrey got fired early on from a news anchor position. Jerry Seinfeld was booed off stage his very first time as a stand-up comedian. Sir James Dyson suffered through 126 prototypes before he actually landed on his first working Dyson. Elvis Presley was fired from the Grand Ole Opry because he was actually told to go back to truck driving. And Colonel Sanders from KFC was rejected over 1,000 times before he ever found his first franchise partner. Fun fact, I also worked at KFC, and I will happily ever go back to work the pack line for the money that I did. I also think people are just afraid of failing, not just failure, but we're overwhelmed by things. There's a lot of complex issues that feel daunting when we're starting things. It leads to paralysis instead of action. I think the sheer amount of information on choices gets overwhelming because we start looking at things in a grand scheme, and it's so massive to the point we just don't even know where to start. My biggest tip is chunk it out however you can, little bite-sized pieces. Like, start with the basics or the simpler tasks. Crossing off little things like that sometimes makes us feel more successful en route. I think also lack of confidence. We have self-doubt that hinders so many things, including our problem-solving abilities. We underestimate our skills and our knowledge. That damn confidence is one of those things that will leave us sitting at the starting line. Let me remind you once again, Oprah before she was who she was fired from a news anchor position. Hello, she literally owns a television network now. Walt Disney World was told he had no imagination, but he literally has multiple theme parks that are the epitome of imagination. Can you believe that? Like, what a confidence bust for both of them, but they kept going and they kept doing. Imagine if they lived within that fixed mindset that so many of us, or other people, not really us, if you're listening to this, you're not probably a fixed mindset person, but you know, that belief that abilities are static, that they cannot improve. Like, imagine living that way. Leading to that reluctance to engage in challenges, like, most humans think that way. Mediocrity at its best. There's a handful of people like me, maybe even you. We are the creative humans that want better in this world. We are philanthropists. We have a purpose. And there are other world lovers that want to make change and create better. That takes a mindset shift. That's something that has to be done in order to figure it out. That is a figure it out kind of person that does the shifting of mindsets. We're not all black and white. We think more in the gray zone. Endless possibilities live all over. Black, white, and gray zone. Nothing is actually what it seems, and there's truth to everything. It just depends on how you see it. I think we also sit on this belief that there are limited resources, not having access to maybe even the right information, the tools, not even having the support can make problem solving more difficult. It's 2024, and unless you live under a rock, you're in a cult, or truly have some serious blinders on, there are resources everywhere. I think also emotional factors like stress, anxiety, personal things start to cloud our judgment and make it really hard for us to become figure it out people. Aren't we all living this way all the time? Adult life is essentially one big bubble of just figuring it the fuck out. No one knows the real answers. I think we're just lost in the sauce thinking someone cracked the code, but we haven't. Each person has to crack the code to our own life. We all think differently, we live differently, and our truest emotions should actually be focused on fulfillment in our own happiness. However, we figure that out in our own lifetime, to each our own. I think some people just never even have the opportunity to develop problem-solving skills. It makes that harder for some people to become figure it out people. I think because I am the eldest daughter, that might be a podcast episode on its own. That has given me the experience to be a figure it out human, and I'm very resourceful. I say it all the time. I'm not smart, I'm resourceful, and I have always felt that I've had to do it on my own. So figuring it out was the only way for me to survive. Some people are more privileged in this life, and their life is already figured it out. There are answers to their problems, but I think that experience oftentimes leads to people with lack of confidence or less eagerness to begin when they haven't had that experience. They haven't had to figure it out. Better yet, there are some people that are just more reliant on other people figuring it out for them. And I think there's always information overload. Like, oh my gosh, this is another thing that really gets in the way of us just starting. Like, we have discern for what's relevant, what's accurate. It leads to confusion, like so much confusion. The internet is a great place, but with so much false information, so much false news, AI, we have started not trusting the internet the way we used to. Then again, there are some people who believe everything off Facebook news feed, and I think they think that's verified news. It's just too much stuff is posted everywhere, rapid fire. Whatever we believe is really based off our judgment. And sometimes that makes us more turned off from YouTube or Google or whatever tools we really could rely on. But things really are figure outable. And there's a couple of approaches that we need to take in order to become figure-outable people. All of those other things are just things getting in the fucking way, right? We are just using those as excuses. Lack of confidence, lack of confidence, lack of experience, doubt, failure, all that shit is there. But what if we shifted our mindset? What if we adopted a growth mindset, which helps us see challenges from different angles and finding different opportunities, learning from these rather than looking at these insurmountable obstacles? Like, mindset is magic. The realist mindset actually is magic. Can you start? Yes. Can you fail? Yes. Could you be successful? Yes. Could it be slow growth? Yes. But did you do it? Yes. Shift your mindset into hyperdrive, and that's what's more focused on making the moves versus what are those moves actually doing. The movement is the goal, not the whole choreography. I think so many times we get wrapped up in like the end. I talk about the journey so much because that is part of the process. That is the enjoyment. If we start breaking it down, we start dividing these problems into smaller, manageable parts, we can become more figure-outable. It makes it easier to tackle things piece by piece, taking smaller bites. Like, you don't have to eat the whole bagel in one bite. Like, just take a bite. It tastes better that way too, right? Like, come on. I mentioned earlier when we were talking about being overwhelmed, small chunks are always going to be more manageable mentally and emotionally. You can stomach things better when they're in small chunks. When you want success, you also cannot drown yourself in the river of tasks. You have to be able to float yourself through that river, one obstacle at a time. You can do that with research and resources. Use available things, books, articles, online courses, experts, coaches, my least favorite thing. But you can use all this stuff to gather information and insights about the problem. Do I need to mention again, there is an abundance of resources out there, but do your own research. Use forums, use Reddit, personal crowdsourcing. You get to figure shit out on your own from whatever you want to. You get to figure it out. How cool is that? Like, you get to do the research. It's like a lifetime science experiment. Start brainstorming, you know? I think being a figure it out person is really just like sitting there and webbing out all the things that you need to talk about, generating multiple ideas or solutions. Like, no judgment to your ideas and solutions. Sparking a creative mindset, that thinking actually leads to a lot of unexpected solutions. I love people who are solution oriented. They're more innovative people. It's like the engineer. The engineer is focused on how can we fix this? And I think so often we're not trying to figure out how to fix things, and we should be trying to fix things and rework things so that they work better. If you can spark the creativity in order to become a more of a figure it out person, I think you're going to be more successful, period, in this life. The more ideas, the more you can get your wheels turning, the more active your brain will be, the better you're going to get at this, period. The more you figure it out, the more you become a figure it out person. The more confident you get in the ability to figure it the fuck out. Experiment, yo. That's what I'm talking about. The ability to do it. Don't be afraid to try different approaches. Failure actually is going to provide valuable lessons and lead us to a closer solution. And I always think of my friend Hawk. He always said, fail stands for the first attempt in learning. You can't succeed without failing a few times. You have to trip over your steps a few times to get to the top. Like, you can't find your Prince Charming without kissing a few frogs. I think we also work on asking for help, collaborating with others, bringing new perspectives, ideas that maybe we didn't even consider. Contribution from others is the golden key in a lot of successful moves. You cannot do this alone. We need others. The most successful people have an entire team to keep one person successful and on track to move forward. It's a collaborative effort. I think also the persistence, the route of figuring it out. Some problems are going to take a long time to figure out and solve. Persistence, patience are real crucial in this figure it out process. Take your time. Some things will be slow. That doesn't mean you're not figuring it out. Whatever pace, you just need to keep your foot on the pedal and keep gassing it up. You have the potential to do what you want, and you eventually can figure it out the way that you want. I just think everyone's timeline is going to be different. If you can sit back, reflect, and adapt on that timeline after trying all the solutions, what worked, what didn't, you can adjust whatever approach as needed. That timeline mentioned earlier, like I said, it's your timeline. It could take longer than somebody else because you're refining the process to be better than somebody else. It may take you longer because you have more obstacles in the way, but you have the ability to figure it out. You have the ability. Can I say that again? Like, so often I hear, wow, Mad, that's so cool. You've done that. Or I'd love to do that. I think to myself oftentimes like, well, you can do that. Or I do tell them like, yeah, why can't you do that? Anybody can do anything that they want. I think because when we want something, we will figure it out. Then I tell myself, well, you know what? Maybe it's something that those people don't want badly enough, because human nature, we do things that we want. When we want it, we will figure it out. Animalistic nature will do it. We want it, we get it. It's Darwinism, it's evolution, it's humankind. When you say to yourself, I could never do that, that's because you're right. It's not for you. You don't want it bad enough. But when you do, when you want something and you're hungry enough, you finally feel that burning desire in your belly, the growl coming alive, you will figure it the fuck out. You're not like the others. You are you. And you will figure it out. You are a figure it out person, and I know without a doubt you are a badass. Get out there, figure it out, and I will see you next week, homie. XOXO, it's your girl Mad. Your figure it out girly. See ya. Hey, and by the way, if you love this podcast, let me remind you that you sharing this is one of the greatest ways to help my podcast just grow. If you don't already follow this, hit the follow button. Give it a rating. Do something with this that can help this go from where I am now to somewhere greater. You have the ability to help me be a bigger podcaster. I love you for being here, and you can always find me on YouTube, Instagram, or anywhere you listen to your podcasts. See you around and catch you next time. Bye.